Okay, guys, so now we get into the fun stuff. For me, yes. So what we're going to do are just some quick mini lessons over some concepts and some ideas. So as we do this, I'm going to have you guys start to experiment with some small group work. So this table is big, so you guys are all going to work together. Kyle, Thomas, we're going to do Thomas. You and Sheila and Carrie are going to work together. And then we've got 4. Yeah, you need to go. That's fine. So the 3 of you I'm going to have work together, and the 3 of you I'm going to have work together.
I'll be leaving at 11:45.
11:45. Okay.
If you don't have that baby, you don't have it. No. Premature labor is that good. My kids will.
Let's do this. Let's have this whole group work together. Because you're going to be leaving in a few. We've still got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Let's just split. That's fine. So the 3 of you are going to work together. The 3 of you are going to work together. You guys are all going to work together. Frederica, if you want to go ahead and go. And then you 3 are going to work together. Sheila will be back in just a minute. I will see you tomorrow. Sheila, you got the door. Thank you.
Do we need anything to take home, like if I leave at 11:45?
Nope. Okay. So I would like to thank my sponsor, Menards, for my stolen paint swatches. So what I'm going to give you guys is just a cup, and in the cup you have these are paint swatches. And on these paint swatches, you have certain ideas or concepts. You are going to look at specifically parts of speech. So when we talk about parts of speech, the ones that we are going to focus on are nouns and verbs. So a noun is what? Okay. It is a person, a place, thing, or an idea. So what do we mean by a person? Well, Mrs. Warner. Good. What about a place? School. Or it can be more specific, like Kokomo. A thing. Person. What? Truck. Pen. Any of those things. Ideas. What does that mean? Something that you can't touch, but it exists. Like an idea. You can't touch an idea, but ideas exist. They're things. This is what we call abstract, so it's not necessarily, you can't touch your smell, but you have the smell. So it's something, it's a person, place, thing, or idea. Now what about verbs? What's a verb?
Something to do.
Okay, so it's an action or what we call the state of being. So let me explain these 2 things. So an action is something that you can physically do. So jump, punch, cheer. Those are things that you can do. The state of being is something that it's a little bit different. So if I say he is nice, is would be the state of being. I'm just describing how someone is or how something is. So there are certain states of being. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. And not my cousin Ben.
I don't know that song.
Good. So I am, me. Just that's it. Is. He is nice. We are a class. He was nice. They were active. Be, being, and been are parts of other components. Just know that they're verbs right now. That's all you need to know. Okay? Can you see it? I know my marker's going out, so I need to grab the other.
I got it.
Okay. Yes.
Do you have a marker I can put English to and writing to and one?
Mhm. Ready? Oh, Tabby, watch out. That was a really bad throw. Okay, so one of the things that you guys will learn about this class and classes in general, especially as we prepare you for the ECA, is that you have to justify your reasoning. So if I say that cats are horrible animals, it's my correct opinion. But I have to justify that. So I have to back up whatever it is that I say. If I say Dennis is mean, it is my opinion, but I have to justify that. So what you guys are going to do in your small groups, I'm going to give you the cup, and in the cup there are there are nouns and there are verbs. You as a group are going to identify the noun, if it's a noun or a verb. And then you're going to explain why. So, theory. Is that a noun or is it a verb? Theory. It is a noun because it is an idea. So you were both right. But you both had two parts to it. So you have to identify, is it a noun or a verb? And then why is it a noun or why is it a verb? So the next one, another one, is hits. Hits.
Action.
It's what? It's a verb, and because it's an action. So this is two-part. So the first part of this is identify the part of speech, noun or verb. And then you have to explain why it is a noun or a verb. You're not doing this as a whole class, you're doing this in your group. So again, theory is a noun because it is an idea. Hits is a verb because it's something that we can do. It's an action. Okay?
Yeah.
I want to see where everybody is at, and I want you guys to start practicing with this idea. We're going to use this information to do the next step, and this is to help remind you of what you need for the diagnostic, which will be tomorrow. What's that? You don't need to, as long as you can think about it. Like, you're not going to turn them into me. No, I just want you. Yeah, you can take it out however you want to. Whatever. Yeah, like squish yourself. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yep, good idea. Yep. So I want to see that you guys are just identifying nouns and verbs and then explaining to yourselves why.
Alright.
Yeah, you don't have to write it down, but if you want to give yourself some practice, the way the diagnostic will be tomorrow, you'll have to identify some nouns and verbs. You'll have some bio and I figured one.
Okay, that's
So, no, the piece of paper that you have will have the answer to the question that I'll have on the board. And then I'm going to give you a test tomorrow. And in that test, you'll have to identify the nouns and the verb. No, you're going to identify the nouns and verbs, and then we're going to talk about what these are in sentences. So right now we're just focusing on what is a noun, what is a name. Your idea. Yep. And if you want to write
Yeah,
it
fine. I have that on our paper.
Is something Okay, so how are you guys doing?
Go ahead. Okay.
No, I
Person,
think
place, or
that-
thing, or an idea, or.
I'll take it for now because I don't feel.
You said is.
I'm a little less now.
Okay. So why do you think that's different?
I say now.
Okay, because it is a person. They is just a pronoun. So if I said, Sheila and Johanna, that's they.
I work for a person give us a list of nouns and verbs and all that.
So think of verbs as things that you can do, or the states of being. Okay?
Like right here, like
No, I just gave that character
Oh, I
as
see.
a body.
Alright, guys.
Okay.
Nine and nine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, what is it?
You said blue, that's what you said. You said this.
they are.
This.
This is a noun. Yep. Joe. Yep. Joe is a noun.
A action.
Oh,
Right.
noun.
That's what we're doing, we're done with them. Oh, yeah.
Did you want to see them so far? This is what we're looking for. No?
Is involved.
They is a noun.
Good idea.
Yeah.
And Joe is a noun.
So this group over here, they're just categorizing and they're writing some of them down. This group over here, they're writing some ideas down. So it's up to you.
I
I'm gonna
know
write
you
down.
white.
The way that the test is gonna work.
Walk.
So the way this test is gonna work tomorrow, you're gonna have to identify the nouns. I'm gonna have to give it some see who needs to stay and who needs to go.
Well, I'm gonna need to go because I'm good. I just don't know.
So I want you guys to ask.
Alright. So,
Yep, it's a verb.
Yes.
It's already out there.
Just word that.
Okay. My turn.
Yep.
Okay, how are you guys?
Looks like action, name, person, place, thing, or an idea.
she's up here.
You said something different. You said see. Decide.
Looks like.
Idea.
Okay, which one?
That's a noun. That's a noun.
It could be an
You're
action,
seeing
understanding.
something. Sight.
You like, if,
You don't have it right?
like,
This
see if you would say like,
are.
like if you would say,
That's
if it's an idea.
It's not
Like
necessarily
say, if you
something
were to say,
to touch.
Sheila was
Yeah.
Kate Wuhan.
Actually, the very
That's all.
just-
This is the,
That's now.
noun.
Dog.
Oh, yeah.
Sheila Itcherson is a no.
Well, I already identified.
Okay, what-
These are verbs.
Yep.
Being,
Being.
noun, were, creature,
Wait a minute,
Noun.
it'll be a person.
was,
Maybe
Place
the
of
person.
rain.
Right, so there's a noun.
are,
Did I say something?
and is.
Hey, what else?
Just let me pull up my phone. Jump. That is.
I'm not saying that.
What?
What is this? Agreement, what is this?
Like this idea.
Good.
No, with the little.
Mm-hmm.
This is now.
I was very slick. Didn't know that when I was on. Yeah.
Wait.
I did.
This is the noun, God.
Yeah, the name's
See, it's like, when you use
What is it?
a verb, it's like,
Okay, what is it? A noun or action?
like say,
Or a verb?
the dog jumped. In order to do that, it's gotta be like, the dog,
Okay.
the verb's gotta be in front of the noun. The dog was.
She.
Really?
So, it's gotta be an action. Or a state of being.
Oh, I'm done.
So this is a noun? Yeah, that's a noun.
Okay, dog. That would be.
It's
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're
Run.
Run is
A verb. It's doing something like you run, right? You run.
Was it?
yeah.
Come on, Sheila, pick a hard one, make a staple.
Are you caught up?
Hey guys, she says that
People's on to
Is a verb,
noun is thing.
a state of being.
Yep. You feel sad.
Thing.
And then you scream when you're sad. I know I do this.
There you go.
You should see what it's doing.
Yep.
Is a state of being.
No, I'll sit here.
Is it a noun or a verb?
This is a verb.
Which one? Action or state?
We're doing awesome. We have a lot of verbs.
Carry something.
Doing.
Yeah. Come on, you can do it.
Verb.
Yeah.
What?
It's
It means
very
like,
big. Damn.
Word. Like it can be.
No, it's Saturdays.
And what kind of verb?
That is a verb.
Alright, we're supposed to do that one right now.
This one's a quite big.
Person. It's something you do.
Actually, yes, you can.
Okay, guys.
Right.
So I'm gonna pull you guys away for just a minute. So the idea of identifying nouns as a person, place, thing, or idea. Most of you got caught up in the same areas. So sight is a noun. It's not something that you can touch, but it exists. It exists out there in the realm of stuff that we can't necessarily see. So seeing is an action, but sight is a thing. Theory was another one you guys may have gotten caught up with, but we talked about that one. What was the other one? Theory. Sadness, right?
Yeah.
Sadness. So you can't touch sadness, but it's a thing. It exists out there. So on the diagnostic tomorrow.
Oh, what?
Okay, focus back up here, guys. On the test tomorrow, you will be asked to identify which is a noun, which is a person, place, thing, or idea, and which is a verb. You're not going to be asked if it's a person, place, thing, or idea, or if it's an action or a state of being. You're just going to be asked, is it a noun or a verb? Those are the most basic components of parts of speech. We are going to be exploring other parts of speech this term, but right now I want to know who can distinguish between a noun and a verb. That's all I need to know. Okay? So, when we talk about nouns and verbs, you're going to have a section on the diagnostic for those. But then we're going to advance a step. And we're going to talk about sentence parts. When we look at sentence parts, we don't talk about nouns and verbs. Now, this is something that for many of you, you have heard, what's the noun in the sentence? That's looking for the person, place, thing, or idea. However, we need to be looking for what we call the subject and the predicates. So let me explain this. A subject is who or what receives the action. So if a subject is who or what receives the action, oftentimes the subject is a noun, but not always. So when we're talking about parts, word parts, we can refer to it as a noun or verb. But when we're talking about it as part of a sentence, we refer to it as the subject. So we use different language when it's a part of something else. So a subject is just who or what is receiving the action. So the predicate is the action or that state of being. You all right there?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's the action of the state of being of the sentence, it's very much like the verb of the sentence. We just call it something different. So even though to you guys I'm Mrs. Warner, to James and Dennis I'm Martha, because that's who I've been for a long time. To my kids I'm Mom. So I have different names based on who I'm talking to, or who's talking to me. So these are just different names. So when it's part of a sentence, it's a subject. When it's a part of a sentence, it's a predicate. Just different names. But don't get caught up in the names. That's essential. Don't get caught up in those names. Now, in addition to a subject and a predicate in a sentence, what else does a sentence have to have? Okay, the next part of this is the capitalization. Oh, sorry, complete sentence. Sorry, that too. So capitalization, what needs to be capitalized in a sentence? Okay?
The sentence.
Of every sentence. And names.
First letter and what we call proper nouns. So let me explain proper nouns. Mrs. Warner, you can call me she, call me the devil lady, but those things aren't capitalized. But if you say Mrs. Warner, that's proper. If you say city, that's not capitalized, but Kokomo is capitalized. If you say country, that's not capitalized, but if you say United States of America, that's capitalized. So proper nouns are this specific person, place, thing, or idea. And you capitalize the first letter of the first word in the sentence. Now it also has to make complete sense. So if I say he, or if I say James is my subject, is my predicate. But that doesn't make sense. So I have to add something in to make sense. So if I say James is here, that makes sense. What's the last thing that you need for a sentence to make sense? You need, you're in punctuation. So that can be a period. It can be a question mark.
Exclamation.
Or an exclamation mark.
We got a class time back there.
I think the class.
Yeah. I think you declared that the first day.
Yes, I did.
First day, first time. Okay. So what I'm going to have you guys do is create some sentences. Right now, you have nouns and you have verbs. So see what you could put together to create a complete sentence. Now, your sentences, your subjects and verbs, your nouns and verbs, do not have capitalization in punctuation. and it may not make sense. So you have to add certain things in. So what I want you to do on that sheet where you wrote about yourself, I want you to create, I'll give you guys time to do 3 sentences. So all you have to do 3 sentences using the subjects and verbs that you have. So an example of this.
I have some little boxes.
Okay. So I have it and is. Now if I say it is, that doesn't make sense. So you're going to write a sentence saying, capital I, it is a good day. Fun. It's time for me to go to the bathroom. Whatever. You're going to finish that. And you're going to end punctuation.
Do we have to use these?
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to use what you have at the table. So you're going to use your your nouns and your verbs to create a complete sentence. So you are going to write yours down. If you want to talk about it and come up with the same one as a group, that's completely fine. Yep.
Awesome, I think we'll do that.
Okay, so I want you guys to get started. Just leave that with me.
Do we have to write these ones down?
Get started on this and then I'll help you guys out. Yeah. So you're going to write it on that piece of paper where you wrote that about yourself. Just write 3 sentences about yourself. Yep, we'll just write below that. Just write 1, 2, 3. Yes. So Josh is going to have 1, 2, 3. You're going to have 1, 2, 3. They can be the same sentences.
Joe, it's Santa.
So you guys can say, yep, so they can be the same sentence.
It's
I just want you guys to come up with correct punctuation, end result, everything.
John. Yeah. Where's the win? I need the win.
So,
We don't have the win, do
We're gonna pick all of the
we?
yeah. So I'm going to work on that.
Joe.
Let me work on my end. And you guys work on these sentences.
Okay, hold on. Is there kids in here?
Oh, no, I understand.
Santa got one.
So you guys put these sentences together. Okay?
Was.
So you say,
Joe is
say
Santa.
jump.
Yeah, Joe is Santa.
When you say jump.
I'm 17.
Or you capitalize that.
I don't know, I forgot you. I'm just gonna find out where
Ooh. Then Harry.
Okay.
Cars. The Harry cars.
Okay, so everybody needs to have 1, 2, and 3. I'm coming right there. You guys good?
Joe is Santa Claus.
Okay.
We can add words to
You
it.
can. And as long as you add the punctuation, it's okay. Yep.
I got a question. Can we put ing and want to put walk?
She's grass.
Yes, you can adjust it if you need to.
Here we go, here's that.
So you have a 1, 2, 3.
She's all. Ooh, she's screaming.
You want me to do mine
No, because they're based on this, so you'll just turn this in, okay?
Alright.
And tomorrow's the diagnostics, so just, yeah, that's just a practice to see where you're at. Okay, do you have your sentence?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, can you label 1, 2,
Yeah, you
3, 4?
can have these in a minute. I am.
No, you know, and then we're gonna do some words in this here. Alright. Miss Sheila, are you getting it?
I think so.
Okay.
How's that?
What do you have to do to jump? Jump.
Jump.
The grass?
Oh,
Yeah.
or you could say she walks.
So we need 3 of them. 3 of them.
Yes.
I can help you.
John and
Yep.
I were running.
Okay,
Joe
yeah.
was Santa.
Alright.
Huh?
Jump the grass.
If we had one Christmas,
Here's all the words.
Okay, see you tomorrow, baby.
Alright, you wanna do theory with one of these?
Joe was Christmas.
The baby.
Joe was Santa for Christmas. What the character? Yeah, I mean.
No, maybe it said the baby screamed.
The baby screamed loudly. What?
There you go.
Like, the one side of Christmas. Yeah.
Four. They can do it.
Or she was waiting on Joe.
She's just an asshole. She's just like
I'm not tearing her down. I'm just listening. She's being crazy. I'm too young. I'm too old for this. No, you're 16. You have to put in
Hey, I'm gonna add one more component to this. So what I need you to do with your 3 sentences, I need you to label the subject and label the predicate. So above your subject, just write an S. Above your predicate, just write P. That's all you have to do.
label subject and predicate. That's my fault.
Do you have your
Subject,
3 sentences?
yeah, they're rated. Joe
Write
was
them down
Santa.
on, so you need them on that piece of paper that I'm gonna, that is your paragraph.
Oh, so that right.
Yep, just mark that.
Okay, so highlight on the. No, you put S
Put it down there.
for subject and T for predicate.
Yep.
Okay.
The baby screamed loudly.
Put this thing. Yep, and be an action. And subject is the baby.
So you just gotta write S. The baby.
You have.
Probably the IES.
Joe was Santa for
I think we're done with these, so.
That's what it is.
So you have one more complex.
You need another one? It's,
This
okay.
is
You got, I got all but one. Okay.
I just need a message with
Oh, great.
You sure?
Go
this
with
thing?
Go with
Who is like this?
She is a good. So it'd be she. Since Joe needs capitalization.
Right. So he is the second.
Right.
Make sure Joe is told.
Right. Joe.
So see, you can make a good thing for you.
Here we go, yeah.
If you partner up more often.
And then the predicate is are walking. That one is going
It's all done up.
I hate this. You don't need it to overlap. You're already
Alright, we did that. That's right.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Well, we go to lunch.
It's
Well,
the break was.
Go to lunch.
It's
Almost.
council at 12:30.
Almost on time.
Student council at 12:30. Hey, you're pretty good.
For the most part, shit. I remember when I was in regular school, I used to there and like,
Software or subjects are.
all that egg on fire.
Yeah, I know that. But you just get bored.
Yeah.
So you gotta find something.
Gee, that was a good class.
If you ever catch me, office space doodling, you already know.
It's starting out easy.
If I see you laying on your paper, I know you were bored.
This is so good.
It's just I can't stand
Wait,
it.
how?
This out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do some out too.
And
One that we can find out.
we can't do what time is it? She works hard on your.
11:51.
It'll be a I had a little
There you go. If you see doodling on her paper, she's bored.
Oh yeah? Okay,
board, but.
we're gonna add.
Again?
Oh! So, I am. So, this is the punctuation, the writing components, but we need to add a couple of things on. So, we've got 10 minutes left, 15 minutes left. So, I'm going to add a couple of things. This can be in your notes. You don't have to turn this into me. We're just going to write some ideas down. As we're doing this, if you guys could put the paint swatches back in the cup for me,
You got one over there.
please.
Do we just need to have some forward? Make it easy for you.
No, just leave the buckets. My next class is going to use those.
Alright, I'm gonna put it against the wall.
What section?
Okay. So, in order to do this in the most organized fashion, if you guys could raise your hands, that would help me out. I'm going to ask you some questions about main idea and about paragraphs. But again, in order to answer, please raise your hand so I can call on you and this will work more seamlessly, okay? So, when we talk about main idea, tomorrow you're going to get some reading passages. And this is all on your diagnostic. So, you're going to get a reading passage and you're going to be asked to identify the main idea. How do we know what the main idea is? Dennis?
What's mentioned over and over and over.
Okay, good. So, whatever is mentioned over and over again, or whatever is repeated, is what we call the topic. So, the main idea has the topic and some other stuff. Now, we have to be really careful with this idea of topic, because if I say Chihuahuas, Basset Hounds, Russell Terriers, what am I talking about?
Dog.
I'm talking about dogs. So we have to recognize what is repeated over and over again. Maybe I say lions and tigers and bears and elephants.
Oh, wow.
Types of animals. Good. So we have to be really careful that we look at what is repeated over and over again, but we have an idea of what those things are. So it may not say Mrs. Warner, Mrs. Warner, Mrs. Warner, Mrs. Warner over and over again. It may say Mrs. Warner, my mom, the lady in front of you. It may say it in different ways. So it's the topic of the passage, the thing that's repeated over and over again, and then it's what the author is saying about that topic. So we call that the author's direction. So we're going to go into more detail about this later on, about what the author's direction is and how we figure that out. But when you're asked to identify the main idea, it needs to be the word or words repeated over and over again, plus what the author's saying about that word or word repeated over and over again. So if I say, Basset hounds are medium-sized dogs. Chihuahuas are small dogs. Mastiffs are large dogs. I'm talking about the specific sizes of dogs. So I may say dogs vary in size. That may be the direction I'm going in. So we're going to keep that fairly brief, and we're going to go into more detail about that over the next few weeks, more specifically. No, just the next few weeks.
Don't do that.
Okay. So the last part of this that we're going to focus on today is a paragraph. So on the diagnostic, you're going to be asked to identify the nouns, identify verbs. You're going to be given some sentences and asked to identify the subject of the sentence and the predicate of the sentence. You're going to be given some reading passages and asked to answer some questions about the main idea of that passage. And you're going to write for me one paragraph. So with that paragraph, you're going to include things that a paragraph should include. So I want you guys to tell me what things you think should be in a paragraph.
3 to 4 sentences.
Okay, so there is not really a magical number for sentences, how many sentences need to be in a paragraph. But if we have 3 to 4 sentences, we need to make sure that it's a complete idea. So in a paragraph, we have to really go in depth and complete the idea. So complete the thought or idea. So that's going to take a bit of work. That's going to take probably more than 3 to 4 sentences. It just depends on the types of sentences that you have. So there's not really a minimum or a maximum amount that you have on sentences. What else do paragraphs need to have? Thomas? Okay, so you need to use punctuation. Can I read a paragraph and know what you're talking about if you have no commas in it? I can. I can do it. I'm an English teacher. I'm used to that. So I can read it and understand it without appropriate punctuation. So punctuation is going to be a very, very, very small part of that. What about spelling errors? I can still read it if there are spelling errors. You want to try your best on spelling. But if you spell paragraph as pair of graphs, I'm going to figure it out. I'm smart like that. I can figure those things out. So I want you to do your best on the spelling. It's not going to freak me out if it's not spelled correctly. Spelling is optional. Great, I love that. So do your best, but don't freak out. Do your best on the punctuation, but don't freak out. Okay? What else do you need to have in a paragraph?
Main subject.
Good. So just like the author of a passage that you're reading has the main idea or the main topic, you want to have a main idea. So this main idea in writing is called a topic sentence. So a topic sentence is one sentence that has what you're going to talk about. Now, do you want to say, in this paragraph, I will tell you about 3 types of birds? No. Just say there are 3 types of birds. So avoid being direct in your paragraphs. Okay. So with punctuation, we want to make sure that we have our appropriate grammar and mechanics, what we call mechanics. So mechanics are the capitalization, having a period at the end is a punctuation, and the grammar component is making sure your subject and verb agree. If you say they is going to do this, I'm still going to understand what you're saying. If you're missing a comma, or if you've misspelled something, I'm still going to know what you're saying. But if you don't have a complete thought or idea, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't get it. If you don't have the most complete sentences, then I'm not probably going to understand what it is that you're talking about. So you want to complete your ideas as much as possible. Now what, are you done? You just put a period on it and that's it. What do you need to end?
A period.
Okay, you do need a period at the very end.
But it also depends on what you're saying and how you say it.
Okay.
Like, there could be a question,
Mm-hmm.
an exclamation mark.
So in addition to that ending punctuation, you want some kind of conclusion sentence. So if you have a conclusion sentence, it just ends the entire paragraph. Tell my students think of it as like a mic drop. You know, when Kanye, when he's talking, I'm out. He just drops it and he's on. That's what you want to think of your conclusion sentence like. All right. Any questions? So what you guys are going to turn into me is that paragraph about yourself, your 3 complete sentences, and you're going to add 4 things that you have learned or are confused by today. So let me get that up here. So I want 4 things. It can be 3 things that you learned and 1 thing you're confused by. It can be 4 things that you learned. Hopefully it's not, but it can be 4 things you're confused by. I just need 4 things about today. So again, it can be 4 things that you've learned. It can be 2 things you learned, 2 things you're confused by. Whatever combination, as long as I have a list of 4 things. So right here, what you learned and what you're confused by here today, okay? Once you're finished with that,